Good morning, everyone. Welcome to South Valley Unitarian Universalist Society online. This is Brenda Voizard.
Let us worship.
Hey, everybody. It's good to see everybody. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high. Some sing loud on the telephone wire. Some clap their hands, they pause, anything they got now. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some clap their hands to pause, anything they got now. Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus moans and groans with a big to-do. And the old cow just goes moo. Dogs and the cats, they take up the middle where the donkey hums and the crickets fiddle and the donkey brays and the pony neighs and the old badger, he just sighs. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or pause, anything they got now. Listen to the top where the little birds sing and the melodies and the high notes swing and the hoot owl cries over everything and the blackbird just disagrees. Singing in the nighttime, singing in the day, the little duck quacks and he's on his way, and the otter hasn't got much to say, and the porcupine, he talks to himself. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some clap their hands to pause, anything they got now. It's a simple song, living sung everywhere. The ox and the fox and the grizzly bear and the grumpy alligator and the hog above and the sly old weasel and the turtle dove. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some clap their hands to pause, and anything they got now. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high, some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some clap their hands to pause, and anything they got now.
Thank you, David. That was fun. And we want to start by welcoming anyone who is new and found us for the first time today, which includes Megan, who came to us in the sanctuary. So she's going to hang out with us while we do this today. Hi, Megan. And I also see Liz Martin. What the heck? Hi, Liz. So yeah, so fun to have anyone new with us. Lori will be dropping in the chat box information on how to stay connected, and there's a connection card that's online that will help us do that with each other. And this is a caring and supportive committee. There is a committee that's caring and supportive of this congregation, and it's the Pastoral Care Committee. And so if you are in need of a talk, of some food, of some connection that way, please do let us know that as well. And there is a pastoral care card being dropped into the chat box right now as well, and a link on our website for that. Our online services are intergenerational, and we do have a religious exploration program for children and youth. I believe they had a movie here last night, Princess Bride, so I bet that was fun. Rob is shaking his head, our director of religious ed, so okay. And please reach out to Rob if you'd like to know more about anything happening with the religious exploration program. Like I said, the senior high is meeting as we speak downstairs today, which is so exciting. And that is part of that program as well. There's a lot happening here at South Valley. In the Happenings Weekly newsletter is a concise, clear way to find out what all's going on. And Lori Quigley, who's our chat box person today, is going to drop her own email address in there. And if you don't get that email already, it's a great one to get. The announcements include something very happy, is that next week we'll start our in-person worship. Yay. And so we will be doing that. It will be here in the sanctuary. We'll be following very clear guidelines for COVID safety, and those went out last week. I'm probably guessing they'll go again to let us all know what we need to do, and we'll be masked and we'll be watching for our social distance. And then we will be entering vaccination information into Breeze, and we're bringing your card with you next week. Let's see. Pre-registration for worship also is strongly encouraged, and that will be going out over email and on the website, and in Happenings is the links for doing pre-registration so that we know how many people are coming in to the sanctuary and to some overflow space downstairs. Children will start in the sanctuary and then be released for outdoors, weather permitting, or indoors if necessary. And we will be live streaming on our YouTube channel. So that is a new thing that will be starting next week. And we will also still have Zoom, just to be sure, if you want to still connect from home. No Zoom. Sorry, that's wrong. So just join into the live stream if you're joining in from home on YouTube. And information about that will be coming out this week as well. Social time following worship will be outdoors, weather permitting as well. And next Sunday night is game night, hosted by Scott and Laura Renshaw downstairs in the social hall, 6 to 8 p.m. So our space, this beloved space, will have all of us beloved people in it starting next Sunday. That is a wonderful, wonderful thing. Okay, we will now take a moment to share the lighting of the chalice and our warmth of community. If you have a candle or chalice at home, please do join in on that. And if you'd like to unmute yourself and we can hear each other's voices as we do that. We will also just say hello first. So go ahead and unmute yourself and let's say hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Liz.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, friends.
Hi, hi. Glad you're here.
Hello,
Liz.
Liz.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
And now we'll do a chalice lighting. And so if you have your chalices at home, and go ahead and stay unmuted. Stand if you want, do our actions if you want, and the words are in the chat box. And we light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Yes.
Opening hymn. All right, comfort me. We've got 2 verses. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me,
Well, good morning, friends. I am glad to be able to share with you a wonderful true story this morning about some of those critters that David was just singing about. This story is called Tango Makes Three. This is by Justin Richards, Peter Parnell. In the middle of New York City, there is a great big park called Central Park. Children love to play there. It has a toy boat pond where they can sail their boats. It has a carousel to ride on in the summer and an ice rink to skate on in the winter. Best of all, it has its very own zoo. Every day, families of all kinds go to visit the animals that live there. But children and their parents aren't the only families at the zoo. The animals make families of their own. There are red panda bear families with mothers and fathers and furry red panda bear cubs. There are monkey dads and monkey moms raising noisy baby monkeys. There are toad families and toucan families and cotton-top tamarin families too. And in the penguin house, there are penguin families. Every year at the same time, the penguins start noticing the other penguins, and the boy penguins start noticing the girls, and the girls the boys. And when the right girl and right boy find each other, they become a couple. Two penguins in the penguin house were a little bit different. One was named Roy, and the other was named Silo. Roy and Silo were both boys, but they did everything together. They bowed to each other and walked together. They sang to each other and swam together. And wherever Roy went, Silo went too. They didn't spend much time with the girl penguins, and the girl penguins didn't spend much time with them. Instead, Roy and Silo wound their necks around each other. Their keeper, Mr. Gramsci, noticed the two penguins and thought to himself, they must be in love. Roy and Silo watched how the other penguins made a home. So they built a nest for themselves. Every night, Roy and Silo slept there together, just like the other penguin couples. And every morning, Roy and Silo woke up together. But one day, Roy and Silo saw the other couples do something that they could not. The mama penguin would lay an egg. She and the papa penguin would take turns keeping the egg warm until finally it would hatch. And then there would be a baby penguin. Roy and Silo had no egg to sit on and keep warm. They had no baby chick to feed and cuddle and love. Their nest was nice, but it was a little empty. One day, Roy found something that looked like what the other penguins were hatching, and he brought it to their nest. It was only a rock, but Silo carefully sat on it, and sat, and sat. And when Silo got sleepy, he slept. And when Silo was done sleeping and sitting, he swam, and Roy sat. Day after day, Silo and Roy sat on the rock. But nothing happened. Then Mr. Gramsci had an idea. He found an egg that needed to be cared for, and he brought it to Roy and Silo's nest. Roy and Silo knew just what to do. They moved their egg to the center of their nest. Every day they turned it so each side stayed warm. Some days Roy sat while Silo went for food. Other days it was Silo's turn to take care of the egg. They sat in the morning and they sat at night. They sat through lunchtime and swim time and supper. They sat at the beginning of the month and they sat at the end of the month. And they sat all the days in between. Until one day they heard a sound coming from their egg. and Roy and Silo called back. And suddenly a tiny hole appeared in the egg's shell, and then, crack, out came their very own baby. She had fuzzy white feathers and a funny black beak. Now, Roy and Silo were fathers. We'll call her Tango, Mr. Gramsci decided, because it takes two to make a tango. Roy and Silo thought Tango was the most beautiful thing they had ever seen. They taught Tango how to sing for them when she was hungry. They fed her food from their beaks. They snuggled her in their nest at night. Tango was the very first penguin in the zoo to have two dads. Soon, Tango grew strong enough to leave the nest. Roy and Silo took her for a swim, just like all of the other penguin families. And all of the children who came to the zoo could see Tango and her two dads playing in the penguin house with the other penguins. Hooray, Roy! Hooray, Silo! Welcome, Tango, they cheered. At night, the three penguins returned to their nest. And there they snuggled together. And like all the other penguins in the penguin house and all the other animals in the zoo and all the families in the big city around them, they went to sleep. All of the events in this story are true. Roy and Silo are called chinstrap penguins because of the delicate line of black feathers that loops under their beaks, as if to hold a hat in place. After years of living side by side in the Central Park Zoo, they discovered each other in 1998 and have been a couple ever since. Tango, their only chick, was born from an egg laid by another penguin couple named Betty and Porky. That couple often hatched their own eggs, but they had never been able to care for more than one at a time. In 2000, when Betty laid two fertile eggs, Rob Gramsci decided to give Roy, Silo, and one of those eggs a chance to become a family. If you go to the Central Park Zoo, you can see Tango and her parents splashing about in the penguin house, along with their friends, including Nipper, Squawk, Charlie, Wasabi, and Pee-wee. There are 42 chinstrap penguins in Central Park Zoo and over 10 million chinstraps in the world. But there is only one Tango.
And now, as is sometimes the case on Zoom, we're going to loop back around and start at the beginning with the call to worship. I am the Reverend Laura Young, and my pronouns are she and her, and it is such a joy to be with you this Sunday. And I am so anticipating next Sunday when we are beginning to gather in the sanctuary once more. This coming Monday is National Coming Out Day, and so you may have already noticed that our service is sort of geared in that direction, and later in the service we'll be hearing from one of our members, Ashlyn Rowan, as well as hearing from an advocate in the LGBTQIA community about her work and her story. It is with joy then that I share our call to worship written by Hafiz, a very ancient poet who I think really is understood what it means to be joyful and to push those boundaries of gender and sexuality. And he wrote, well, originally it was written in his language. It was translated for us. It's called Tripping Over Joy. And Hafiz writes and muses, what is the difference? What is the difference between your experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made a fantastic move. That the saint is now continually tripping over joy and bursting out in laughter and saying, I surrender. Whereas, my dear, I am afraid you still think you have 1,000 serious moves to make. So let us join one another in joyfulness today, and let us worship holy and well.
This community is one that we create together. And behind us on the altar today, you'll notice the branch with the strings that is from one of our outdoor services this summer, where we tied our hopes and our fears onto that branch. It's with us still here in the sanctuary, as all of you are. You also might see a couple of dolls behind me, which are beloved to Maureen and I. They were made by Travis, our dear friend, family person. His mom, Edith, made them for us to represent us. And it was a learning process for her as well as us to make those connections of what those dolls mean in our lives. We now are at the point of taking the offering, and we do that using Breeze. The link will be put in the chat box, and we're grateful for any and all gifts that you give. People give monthly for their pledge, and we also take a Sunday offering every week. And part of our ministry is sharing that Sunday offering with an organization in the Salt Lake area that aligns with our values. And for this month, we are working with the Utah Refugee Connection. Their mission is to create meaningful connections between refugees, the community, and public and private organizations that support refugees. And currently, they are helping with the effort to invite and have Afghanistan people coming here, one of 19 places in the US that is welcoming. And we are glad to be a part of helping Utah Refugee Connection and refugees in our community connect with one another and with us. All of us are enriched by this. And so please say at home the words that are in the chat box for our offering. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts.
Sometimes I'm right, I could be wrong. My own beliefs are in my song. Butcher, the banker, the drummer, and then make no difference what group I'm in. I have everyday people, yeah. There's a blue one who can't accept the green one, a living in a fat one, trying to be a skinny one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Ah, sha, we got to live together. I am no better, and neither are you. We are the same, whatever we do. You love me, you hate me, you know me, and then can't figure out what the bag I'm in. I love everyday people, yeah. There is a long hair who doesn't like the short hair, being such a rich one who can't accept the poor one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Ah, sha, we got to live together. There is a yellow one who won't accept the black one, who won't accept the red one, won't accept the white one. Different strokes for different folks, and so on and so on, and Scooby-Dooby-Doo. I am everyday people.
For all we have received and all we have found the courage to give, may we be truly grateful. May these gifts be a blessing to South Valley and to the Utah Refugee Connection. At this time, all that are gathered are invited to participate in our ritual of joys and sorrows. I am gathered here in the sanctuary this morning with Maureen, who will add a stone to the water as you share your joys and sorrows in the chat box.
Brenda.
I invite you now to join me in a spirit of meditation, reflection, or prayer. Spirit of life, we so often find ourselves again and again today and in this day on the edge of a world that seems forever to be breaking. Spirit of life, we call upon you to be within us such that our heart also always remembers how to break open. Let us not become numb to the suffering of ourselves and the world around us, but let us instead perpetually show up on that forming edge of the world, trusting and knowing and believing and working and siding with love, knowing that we are the ones that we have been waiting for. Spirit, we ask for the courage and the determination and the clear-sightedness to love justice, to walk humbly, and to do our best to build a beloved community every single day of our life. Spirit, we ask your love and care to be around this whole community of South Valley. We extend our love and care throughout the entire world, especially lifting up those who are remaining in Afghanistan who wish to leave, those who have no recourse but to stay, and for those who were harmed earlier this week in a terrible attack at a mosque. Spirit, we lament that religious differences at times can cause such a strife. We ask you to guide all of our hearts towards love and towards justice, towards taking that step towards justice that makes things whole. Allow us, Spirit, to trust in that wholeness that we know it remains untouched. For our brothers and sisters and siblings of faith whose hearts have been broken at the hands of religious leaders and communities, we cry. We commit ourselves again in this moment to being a welcoming community. Let us be faithful to that mission of South Valley, which seeks to love justice and seeks to be welcoming and recognizing that we have yet more work to do and ever expanding that widening circle of justice and care so that all may be spiritually whole, so that all may be liberated and brought into the circle of care. And Spirit, I just ask that you rest on the hearts of these beloved people and care for them and wind them through their days and their weeks such that they know that they matter. And we are so glad they are here. Blessed be and amen. Let us enter in now to a time of reflection through learning about other people's stories. We have two stories for you this morning. The first is from a young woman named Courtney Skaggs, who is intersex, and we will play her video of her story. And then following that, we will hear from one of our own members, Ashlyn Rowan, about their work on gem stories. I give you these two stories in faithfulness and in peace.
Hi, I'm Courtney, your typical ex-Mormon lesbian who happens to be intersex. Yeah, you heard that right. I said intersex. So I guess maybe not exactly typical? From the beginning of time, we have bucketed humans, animals, and even plants into male and female. The binary distinctions in schools, media, fashion, technology, sports, government, and history shape us profoundly. But my intersex body beautifully blows that up. You may have heard the term before or seen the I in the acronym LGBTQIA, but do you really know what it means? Intersex persons are born with sex traits that don't fit the standard male and female. We have some characteristics of both. These variations can involve genitalia, chromosomes, sex organs, hormone production and response, and secondary sex characteristics such as body hair and breast development. To put it simply, we are neither male nor female. We're a hybrid of genders dotted along the beautiful sex spectrum. I was born with androgen insensitivity, or AIS, and appearing female. But upon closer inspection, they found my balls, vag, and clit. A team of doctors was assembled like Ron Burgundy's news team, and they found through tests that I'm XY. For those who don't remember basic biology, that's male. Additionally, my body produces very low amount of testosterone and no estrogen. This came as a shock to both my family and medical professionals. In the weeks following my birth, I was deemed female by a doctor, underwent non-consensual surgery to normalize my genitalia, and my family was left to face the heartache and confusion surrounding their newborn baby. The shortcomings of the medical community's treatment of intersex persons hit again when I began hormone replacement therapy as a teenager, a treatment that likely would not be necessary if my body had not been sliced and diced as an infant. One small problem: they got the prescription wrong. Instead of puberty, I hit menopause as a preteen, hot flashes and all, and the dose of estrogen wasn't corrected until earlier this year at the age of 28. Roughly 2% of the population is intersex. Similar odds to someone being born with red hair, to put it in perspective. Growing up, our androgen insensitivity was not to be shared or discussed, except with close family. So basically, my parents. And that's it. No one else. For 27 years. I grew up in a world where media and even friends would make jokes and jabs about intersex traits. Because of this climate, I felt marginalized, misunderstood, and alone. I felt crippling shame and secrecy as I lied about getting my period and wondered if my body was normal. But in recent years, I've done excruciating work to love myself. In communicating with people near to me, poring over resources on the internet, and connecting with online support groups, I have found that I am not alone. I am valued, and most importantly, that I am me because I am intersex. Being intersex isn't something that has happened to me. It's not my plight or burden, it's who I am. Over the past few years, I have challenged the Mormon Church on the topic of intersex traits. During a meeting with a regional leader, they asked me, "What have you been denied as an intersex person?" After getting into the lack of government and societal representation and the mistreatment from the medical community, I paused. The most important thing I've been robbed of as an intersex person is my identity, my core sense of self. I was pushed and prodded and contorted to fit into the female definition for 27 years. Think about that for a second. Imagine what it must feel like to have to hide your whole life. Feeling truly alone and like a freak. Coincidentally, the church, which formerly hadn't spoken a lick about us, suddenly had a position on the matter. My words had reached the leaders in Salt Lake City, Utah. In response to my inquiry, the right-hand man to the prophet instructed local leaders to read to me their position before including a section in the General Handbook of Instruction. They spoke of compassion and wisdom regarding intersex traits, but their words were ultimately dismissive and inaccurate. My personal call to action is leading me to return to school to study public health through the intersex lens, be vocal in my communities, and work tirelessly to educate myself on how I can make things better for the next generation of intersex youth. We have a right to body autonomy, consensual surgeries, adequate health care, media representation, community, education, support, allies, government recognition, laws that protect our bodies, and most importantly, some high-quality self-love. These needs can be defined into 3 major categories for the progress of the intersex community. They are Number 1, body autonomy and adequate health practices. 2, government recognition and protection. And 3, visibility, community, and education. I will never fit into the male and female boxes our society has constructed, and I could give a rat's ass. I am intersex. My body is beautiful. I'm indomitable!
We use that video with permission from Courtney Skaggs, and perhaps look forward to having her join us in other ways going forward as she continues to do that really great, excellent advocacy work. It's my joy now to invite Ash Rowan to share with us a little bit about their work on gem stories. And it is actually through Ash's work that I found and was connected to Courtney. So many thanks. And I turn it over to Ash now.
Thank you, Reverend Laura. So yeah, my story, I guess I'll introduce myself first. My name is Ashlyn Rowan. I go by Ash for short. I am non-binary, genderqueer, somewhere in that umbrella of strange non-binariness, and to my knowledge, not intersex, but I do describe my gender as being not quite male, not quite female, somewhere blended in the middle, but both and neither and all of them. And it's pretty great. I love it. But my story does have a lot of overlaps with Courtney's in that I was born and raised into the LDS or Mormon church. I still carry some of that tradition with me, but I gradually felt more and more pushed out by the institution and its policies and doctrines that really don't have a place for queer people, and particularly for trans people and non-binary people and intersex people, anyone who I would describe as gender expansive. And so I have started this project known as GEM Stories. So the GEM is an acronym. GEM stands for Gender Expansive Mormons. And it's gathering the perspectives and the stories of gender expansive individuals who maybe either are or were or have some relation to Mormonism in whatever degree that may be. And one thing that I found, like Courtney growing up, like I didn't have words to explain this strangeness about me. I felt maybe broken or maybe confused, lost, all these things. And once I was able to actually put words to it and to describe these experiences, I no longer felt broken or lost or confused. I felt like I was coming into myself. I felt authentic and natural and who I was supposed to be. So that's kind of been my aim with this project, is to be able to provide that for other people as well, and to show people that they aren't alone in these feelings and these experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and try to share my screen. So hopefully you all can see this. It's just gemstories.org is the website. I've collected a little repository of various stories that people have submitted to me anonymously to protect their safety and their identities. So the first one here is a comic that I actually made a few years back when I was sort of first exploring what this whole identity and experience meant to me, what it would mean going forward. I'll go ahead and read what it says. I often wonder, is there a place for me in the world, in my family, in my church? Despite it all, I know who I am. There's room. I'll make room. And fortunately, that was a few years back, and I've been able to find more and more acceptance and understanding, even in places where I haven't necessarily expected it to come from. There's definitely still a lot of non-acceptance, I guess, people who don't understand, don't want to understand, and that is frustrating and disheartening. But it does bring me hope to know that there are people out there who will love me for who I am and who do want to understand and learn more. And so if you have a minute, sometime I do invite you to come on this website and check out some of these other stories that people have sent in. It's just various people who are trans, non-binary, somewhere under that whole umbrella. I also maintain the accounts for Gem Stories on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So I'll kind of share information there related to like allyship or various events going on in the community. And yeah, that's been my work there. And so I'm continuing to work on it and continuing to move it forward and hoping to bring more enlightenment, more community to these people who typically are marginalized. Thank you for letting me share with you.
Thank you, Ash, for sharing your ministry with us. I'll start with a quote by Barbara Brown Taylor from her book, Leaving Church. She writes, "As hard as I have tried to remember the exact moment when I fell in love with God, I cannot do it. My earliest memories are bathed in a kind of golden light that seemed to embrace me as surely as my mother's arms. The divine presence was strongest outdoors and most palpable when I was alone. And if anyone had ever tried to tell me that creation was fallen or that I should care more for heaven or for earth, I would have gone off to lie in the sweet grass by myself." And that sentiment from Barbara Brown Taylor is one that I know resonates with many Unitarian Universalists who go outside and find that connection to nature is where their connection to the divine begins. And while I may not have written those words myself, my experience of the divine presence is also quite similar to that. For me, as a child, loving God was as natural as breathing for me. At the age of 5, I asked my parents to take me to church, and being the good and kind people they are, they opened the phone book and went through the list, visited a few local churches, and settled on Presbyterianism. I wish they'd gone just a little further to Unitarian Universalism, but that's not this story this time. Our families were members of this Presbyterian church for the remainder of my childhood, and we enjoyed many good times at family camps and singing together on Sunday mornings and going to Advent celebrations and holiday celebrations. And those are things that I will always hold close in my heart. And when my mother was dying of cancer, they brought food and love and prayer into our home. And that also matters. But those are not the only strands of that narrative. There is another strand, a strand that found its way into my heart as a deep wound. And it squeezed my natural orientation as a Universalist into smaller and smaller and smaller spaces until I thought it was gone forever. I learned in Sunday school as a child that God is love, but I also learned that there was only one acceptable way to love God and all of creation. And that was, of course, by accepting Jesus of Nazareth as the Christ and his suffering and death and resurrection as redempted for my inherently fallen nature. And as you can imagine, as someone who has now found her way into ministry, I was also gifted with a voracious theological imagination as a child, and that curiosity got me into consistent trouble as a child. When folks said, "Bring your doubts and your questions," I thought they actually meant it. These were good and loving people, do not get me wrong, but I quickly learned that my questions would make them uncomfortable. So I learned to suppress my questions and to blend in. I can't even tell you how many altar calls I answered. Each time I committed anew to knowing Jesus Christ as my Savior, I was sure it was going to stick, but it never did. I loved Jesus and respected his teachings, but I knew I was a failure and a fake, always on the outside looking in, carrying my shame around like a backpack I could never take off. When I came of age, I left the church in a feminist blaze of glory, but I unfortunately kept that shame backpack with me. All I knew was anger and disillusionment, because no one had had the courage then to tell me that I was a Universalist, a queer theologian, and a feminist at heart, and that my natural way of loving the divine was just fine. Being a Universalist is a minority position in Christian circles and also in Unitarian Universalist circles. And for a long time, I thought I was the only one. until I came to a Unitarian Universalist congregation. And in that community, I began the process of returning to my natural state. And I tell this story in honor of National Coming Out Day because trauma and harm is a painful and present reality within and among religious circles of all types. I tell this story because I wonder how my life might have unfolded differently if I had known beyond a shadow of doubt that I was welcome to be who I truly am before the religious community of my childhood. Now, I am not one that can say I knew the truth of my sexuality at a young age. Bisexuality continues to be poorly understood and viewed with suspicion, and I think it would be more accurate to say of my own experience that I never even knew it was an option until I was a young adult. And by that time, I was more focused on building a life according to a script that had been given to me than pausing to consider the reality of my own queerness. That reality was not something I was willing to speak into or acknowledge until I was almost 41 years old. And truth be told, I'm wholly okay with that. This is a real life. And if it were to fit into a cultural script that is acceptable to you, I would be disappointed. Unitarian Universalist congregations such as South Valley have been engaged in the difficult and time-consuming work of restoring faith to those who have been harmed and injured by religious communities who had good intentions and very poor practices. And Unitarian Universalist congregations have sought to be a safe space, a brave space, a welcoming space, and a good space for the expression of fluidity that is present in every person, not just those who have done the inquiry work of whether or not they are gay or bisexual, intersex, asexual, transgender, gender fluid, non-binary, or any of the other beautiful expressions that walk in through the doors of this community and out and throughout all of the greater Salt Lake area. We are a community that has sought to be welcoming and has done that hard work for many decades now, and we will continue to do that work. Every time we offer OWL, Our Whole Lives, our sexuality and reproductive health programming, we hedge against that narrative that says you must be one way or one way only. We say, no, we will be inclusive. We will ever expand and widen that circle of care until all can be welcome. And South Valley has also been involved in building awareness and capacity and advocacy for decades. And one of those areas that South Valley has been particularly influential in is in the creation of PFLAG here in Salt Lake City. Many of you were involved in the formation of those first chapters in the greater Salt Lake area. And that legacy is something that I am very happy to share with you is going to be reinvigorated in Salt Lake City once again. Over the last few years, all of the chapters of PFLAG in Utah have dwindled and most have lost their charter. There is only one viable charter left, and it is the Salt Lake chapter. National PFLAG has been working over the last 12 to 18 months to find a way to bring PFLAG back to Utah. And I am very happy to share with you this morning that I participated in their first board meeting last week. I was given the dubious honor of being their board president. God help us all. And that we're going to be bringing PFLAG back to Utah and bringing it back to Salt Lake City. And I am so thrilled that it is happening during my ministry here at South Valley in a community that gave birth to PFLAG here originally many decades ago. So it feels good to be able to share some good news with you in the midst of a world that, of course, always feels like it's falling apart and needs our attention and care. So I hope that you will journey with me over the coming years as we watch and foster and grow this vital piece of the advocacy picture back into wholeness here, because Utah needs as much advocacy as it can get. They've done some good work and they need some more help to get some more of that good work done, because we continue to see some of those really disastrous bills that are anti-trans coming up for the legislation, and bills that continue to limit reproductive health in Utah, and efforts that would like to create similar legislation here in this state as what is happening in Texas. So we know that we have our work cut out for us. So I invite you this morning to celebrate the arrival of PFLAG back on our shores here in Utah, or I guess shores is probably not appropriate because we're landlocked, whatever it would be in a mountain landscape, back on the edge of the cliff or whatever that is, or throughout the valley. And just to join me in celebrating and honoring that, and to call it good. To call it good, to call ourselves good, and to call ourselves whole and holy, and know that it is enough that we have love, that there is an abundant source of love in this world, and that this community is a source of that love, perpetually springing forth and finding its way through, quenching those hearts that need it the most. Let us be joyful in that together. And happy National Coming Out Day, whoever you are and wherever you are, in whatever body you find yourself in. Know that it is a good one and you are loved. Amen and blessed be.
Please join me in singing hymn 1053, How Could Anyone? We will go through it 2 times.
Thank you, John. So beautiful. It is time to extinguish the chalice. If you have yours at home, and if you'd like to unmute to say the words together that are being put into the chat box. We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of community, the light of truth, or the energy of action. We hold each other in our hearts until we meet again.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
What would you do if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song. I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get by, little help from my friends. I get high, little help from my friends. I'm gonna try, little help from my friends. What would you do when my love is away? Does it worry you to be alone? How do I feel by the end of the day? Are you sad because you're on your own? Oh, I get by, little help from my friend. Oh, I go high, little help from my friend. Oh, I'm gonna try, little help from my friend. Do you need anybody? I love somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Would you believe in a love at first sight? I'm certain that it happens all the time. What would you see when you turn out the lights? I can't tell you, but I know it's mine. Oh, I get by, little help from my friend. Oh, I get high, little help from my friends. Yeah, I'm gonna try, little help from my friend. Do you need anybody? I need somebody to love. Could it be anybody? I want somebody to love. Oh, I get by, little help from my friends. Oh, I'm gonna try, little help from my friends. Yeah, I get high, little help from my friends, little help from my friends.
Hear now the benediction. May today be a blessing in your heart. May you walk humbly on the earth, and may you grab the hand of whoever is closest to you and let them know that they matter. May they in turn turn to you and remind you that you matter. And in this way, may we continue our journey together towards wholeness, creativity, and joy. Blessings upon you, and be good to one another. I will see you soon, next week, hopefully, in the sanctuary on the 17th. For those that would like to stay for some social time together in the Zoom room, we'll take a short break and then regather in the Zoom room for a few moments of fellowship and connection. Other than that, I bless you on your day. Amen.